email afterwards. But on to the webinar, we will be talking about, as I said, expedition cruising Antarctica, the how, the what, the why, and the when as well. So in terms of Wild Earth, for those who don't know us, we are small ship cruising specialists with over 30 years of experience. From pole to bowl, we have access to over 2,000 different itineraries, and we select vessels that carry no more than 250 passengers at a time. So you get that small ship cruising experience. We're able to go into smaller ports and have that more authentic experience. In terms of Antarctica, we have access to over 15 operators, from true expedition style vessels to the world's first ever luxury icebreaker as well. And within that, we have access to over 60 different itineraries, and many of them are themed, such as wildlife and history. And we also have access to lots of different activities as well, including kayaking and hayaking, even camping and polar plunging, if that's up your alley. We have the general manager here at Wild Earth is Aaron Russ, and with that hat on, he has lots of knowledge of Antarctica, but he does wear two different hats. And I hope you wouldn't mind me saying that he is a veteran Antarctic expeditioner. And I don't say that lightly. He has over 30 years traveling to Antarctica, and he tells me he's lost count of how many times he's actually been, but it is well over 100. So today, Aaron is going to impart some of his excellent Antarctic knowledge with us. So without further ado, I will pass you over to Aaron.
Okay, good morning everyone, and welcome. I'm looking forward to sharing a little of what you can expect to see and experience in Antarctica during an expedition voyage as we make our way through the world of Antarctic expedition cruising. Now, of course, the southern summer is the season for voyaging south to the Antarctic, with voyages starting as early as October and running through into March each year. And during the course of the year, or the summer in the south, the seasons change and adapt as the season progresses. Antarctica is renowned for being the highest, driest, coldest, windiest of all continents, and it is, of course, all of these things, but it's also an incredibly beautiful continent to see and explore by sea. And the great news is that you get to see and experience, by traveling by expedition ship, much of the beauty of the Antarctic without having to experience the full force of the superlatives that it's so renowned for, the highest, coldest, driest and windiest, as we cruise along the coasts of Antarctica during these expedition voyages. So we'll start first of all with an expedition experience in the south of South America, with voyages which sail from Ushuaia being the main leaping off point for these expeditions. Ushuaia at the southern end of Argentina, down on the shores of Tierra del Fuego at the very southern end of South America. Some expeditions do also sail from some of the Chilean ports, such as Punta Arenas and Puerto Williams these days as well. And we have a range of expedition itineraries, as Nissa mentioned, which explore southwards and eastwards from here, with the longest and most in-depth itinerary featuring the Falkland Islands, South Georgia, as well as down to the Antarctic Peninsula as well. So I will take you on a voyage today, visiting first of all to the Falkland Islands, and then South Georgia, and then concluding in this part of Antarctica with a visit to the Antarctic Peninsula. Ushuaia is the main hub. It's easily accessible. Many of our operators even include charter flights from Buenos Aires or Santiago through to Ushuaia, or you can travel independently there and spend some time enjoying the mountains of southern South America and Tierra del Fuego before you embark on your voyage. Setting sail from Ushuaia, you head out down the Beagle Channel out into the Southern Ocean, and there you start to meet some of these really iconic species of the Southern Ocean, such as the wandering albatross, which is so at home on the open waters of the Southern Ocean. First port of call for those heading out to the islands of the South Atlantic is the Falkland Islands. It's a day at sea from Ushuaia, and then you arrive to the West Falklands. Here there's a great archipelago of islands which have an amazing array of human history, of course, renowned for the Falklands War, but many other human stories, and an excellent abundance and diversity of wildlife, all set against the spectacular scenery of the Falklands. The Falklands are home to a number of penguin species, including the rockhopper penguins that breed on many of these small islands out off the west that we're able to visit by Zodiac. And it's also home to a number of extensive albatross colonies, including the largest of all albatross colonies, one of the black-browed albatross colonies on Steeplejason in this case. So a really rich and abundant wildlife experience. I can highly recommend the Falklands as a destination. It complements the opportunities to see wildlife throughout the rest of the region. And no visit to the Falklands is complete without a visit to the bustling little capital of Stanley, rich in history from early Antarctic explorers such as Sir James Clark Ross through to more modern times with, of course, the Falklands War and continuing through to the modern day. From the Falklands, continuing on our way out towards South Georgia, there's a couple of days at sea. These are filled with lectures and presentations from the onboard expedition team, but there's also some spectacular opportunities for wildlife spotting, and in particular, some very rich whale grounds. I've seen a number of species of whales, 6 or 7 species in a half hour even, as you cross the Antarctic convergence. These very rich grounds for whale feeding, which lie between the Falklands and South Georgia. And then we arrived to South Georgia, one of the truly spectacular islands of the world, an alpine range of mountains rising directly out of the waters of the Southern Ocean, a truly spectacular backdrop to an exploration of the wildlife of the Southern Ocean. And this is really to emphasize the expedition nature of the experience. You're going to be landing throughout the voyage by Zodiac on these spectacular beaches. The great thing about South Georgia is in the summer, the sun rises early. This was a 3 a.m. landing for the sunrise at Gold Harbour, one of the beaches and king penguin colonies of South Georgia. So there's an array of opportunities and experiences from the harbours with the history to the wildlife-bound beaches of South Georgia, and it's all set against a backdrop of these spectacular glaciated peaks which tumble to the sea along the coast of South Georgia. So coming ashore on that previous slide at 3 in the morning, the sun continued to rise, and this is the scene that greets you in the other direction. King penguins in abundance along the shore with those glaciated peaks rising up above. And taking the time to just sit and enjoy and soak up the scenery, enjoy the photographic opportunities. The wildlife really has no fear of humans, and something that I've always found myself, and I'd always encourage all travelers to do on these voyages, is to just sit quietly a while, let the wildlife come to you, watch the rhythms of nature as it goes about its day-to-day life, and the photographic opportunities really continue to present themselves. There's no shortage of king penguins to be found, and other wildlife as well. Here, looking down on one of the king penguin colonies, you can see all the birds dotted across or completely covering the landscape and running out to the sea. South Georgia is, as many of these subantarctic islands are, incredibly rich in wildlife. And you're will find yourself ashore in the heart of the action, along the edges of the king penguin colony. You could easily imagine yourself coming around the corner and finding David Attenborough, Sir David Attenborough, presenting one of his natural history documentaries, as you really are amongst all the action when you're ashore and exploring these destinations. Great photographic opportunities here with the Gentoo penguins. There really is nature at every turn. Elephant seals along the shores and in the shallows, from the young photogenic youngsters through to the burly great males and beach masters, which dominate during the early part of the season in South Georgia. And of course, there's also the history that draws many to South Georgia. Most notable of all is Sir Ernest Shackleton and his exploits in and around South Georgia. He arrived here after his open boat journey in the James Caird, and was then subsequently buried in South Georgia as he died here on a subsequent expedition. So there's the opportunity to visit the old whaling station at Grytviken, which is where Shackleton is buried in the whaling cemetery. You can see by midsummer in the photo here, the snow is retreated up onto the higher peaks, and it's reasonably lush and benign along the shores by Southern Ocean standards. As we make our way further south along the coast of South Georgia, the scenery becomes progressively more Antarctic, with these big tidewater glaciers tumbling to the sea in the south of South Georgia. Generally, expeditions spend between 3 and 4 days in and around South Georgia, but we also have expeditions that particularly focus on South Georgia, some of them spending up to a week exclusively in and around the shores of South Georgia. From South Georgia, heading southwards on that great Antarctic experience of the southern reaches of the South Atlantic, you set course from South Georgia bound for the Antarctic. The icebergs become more frequent, often spotting these large tabular bergs that have drifted out of the Weddell Sea, and then arrive first of all to Elephant Island, scene of Shackleton's Weddell Sea Party, which were camped on the shores of Elephant Island as Shackleton set off with his men in the James Caird to effect a rescue. And you can see the group there was exploring by zodiac. We have on the expeditions a range of opportunities for exploration, both by zodiac and ashore, and they give a great diversity of opportunities for experiences. Again, as in South Georgia, just taking the time to sit quietly a while. Here, one of the chinstrap penguins has wandered over to check out the photographer as I was sitting on the beach, watching the world go by. And you're really surrounded by the wildlife. Each landing in the South Shetlands and through into the Antarctic is unique and different, and builds up the picture of the story that the South has to offer, with different wildlife to be spotted, from chinstrap penguins to Weddell seals. There's great geology to be explored, from the volcanic scenery of places like Deception Island and the South Shetland Islands, to some of the unique sedimentary rocks further south as well. Like South Georgia, the Antarctic Peninsula was home to successive eras of exploitation as well, most notably the whalers, which came and based themselves in places like Deception Island. And so chances to explore that history and see the remains of the whaling stations in Deception Island as well. Once you're in the Antarctic Peninsula, that really are in the heart of the scenery in action, as your expedition ship navigates you through the channels and bays and waterways. So while there'll be regular opportunities to head out by zodiac to land and explore, there's also no shortage of great scenery to be seen as your ship sails through these waters, right through into the early hours of the night, with the long daylight hours. Here, still just to the north of the Antarctic Circle, but in the true polar environment. And your expedition team are really looking to design an experience taking into account the opportunities, the weather conditions, and the wildlife to maximise your chances to see and experience the most that the Antarctic has to offer. There's a great diversity of landing sites that you can find the wildlife and the history on. So no two expeditions are the same, but they really are taking you to see and explore this very remarkable landscape. The ice is another big feature from these tidewater glaciers that tumble to the sea, through to the tabular icebergs that have broken off from some of the large ice shelves further in the south, through to the icebergs and bergy bits that continually evolve and twist and turn to make a myriad of shapes and forms that you can explore by zodiac from your expedition ship as well. And even what might appear to be small pieces of ice when you're on your ship, once you get down on the water and at sea level, they suddenly really gain a sense of scale and perspective. No two pieces of ice are ever the same, and I've literally spent years enjoying the diversity of shapes and colours and forms of ice, and it's a real highlight for many heading to the Antarctic. And amongst the ice is often the best place to see some of the wildlife as well, things like these crab-eater seals, and further to the south, Adelie penguins become more prevalent as well. Some more of that great scenery. So there really is views to be had and experiences at every turn as you navigate through these Antarctic waters. And some of the history along the shores, from early scientific bases to the landing sites of the early explorers that explored along the coast of the Antarctic Peninsula as well. As the summer progresses, early in the season, there's a lot of snow and ice around. The penguins are starting to come ashore and nest amongst the white expanse of the winter snows. That snow will progressively melt away as the season progresses. So by midsummer, expect to find the penguins nesting on the rocky shores of the Antarctic coast. And as the summer progresses, the whales also start to arrive, in particular the humpback whales, which head south from their tropical breeding locations, arriving around midsummer and then continuing to feed and gorge themselves on the abundance of food that is prevalent around Antarctica, these large swarms of krill, which will give you some excellent opportunities to see the whales, particularly in the latter half of the summer. From around Christmas time onwards, the whale numbers only continue to increase. It really is a place which continues to give. No two days are the same, no two experiences are the same. There's a great diversity of opportunities to be had exploring the Antarctic Peninsula, and that's why there's expeditions that particularly focus just on the Antarctic Peninsula and all that it has to offer travellers, as well as those longer expeditions which feature both the Falklands and South Georgia, as well as Antarctica as well. As Nissa mentioned, for those looking for it, there are expedition ships which do offer additional adventure options, such as the option to join the kayak program on board. Many of these are programs where you do need some level of kayaking experience. Others give you the opportunity to get out and give it a go, so to speak, in Antarctica. For those that require a little more experience, they're able to offer a little more as well in terms of the opportunity to explore further afield, and there are limited spaces in the kayaking program, so you do get a small group experience as well as one of the other benefits of joining the kayaking programs. Have a chat to the team at Wild Earth about the vessels which offer kayaking programs. Another popular option is camping ashore. Here you head ashore late in the evening after dinner and get to enjoy the magic hours of the evening through the night ashore at one of the selected landing sites. Again, limited participants. It's something that you generally need to sign up for in advance of the expedition. And while you might not be having the longest night's sleep, it'll be one of the most memorable nights you'll have should you join the camping ashore options. In terms of itineraries, just to recap, so this is your classic Antarctic Peninsula experience. Voyages range with this itinerary between 10 and 13 days in duration, sailing from Ushuaia across the Drake Passage, a couple of days at sea, and then the bulk of your time in and around those sheltered waters of the Antarctic Peninsula, with the spectacular opportunities there, before returning north once again to Ushuaia. Particularly from December onwards, there are longer expeditions. These can range from 2 weeks to a little longer, which will explore not only the Antarctic Peninsula, but also south across the Antarctic Circle, further into the heart of the Antarctic. Not only does it take you further south, it also gives you more time to see and experience Antarctica on these more in-depth itineraries. And as we ran through the longer itineraries, which visit both the Falkland Islands in South Georgia, as well as the islands of the South Shetlands and down to the Antarctic Peninsula, these voyages range between 18 and up to 24 days in duration. Often those starting earlier in the season in early November will sail from points further north, southwards, such as Porto Madryn shown here, and then south through to Ushuaia. But we do also have itineraries which start and finish from Ushuaia. And an increasingly popular option for those that don't want to sail across the Drake Passage is the option to fly to Antarctica, landing at Frey Station in the South Shetland Islands, where you join your expedition ship and then experience the Antarctic for 5 or 6 days, around the same amount of time as you would on the classic Antarctic itinerary, before flying back to Punta Arenas in Chile. Offers, of course, all the great Antarctic experiences without the time aboard crossing the Drake Passage. Now I'm going to take you around to the other side of Antarctica, to the remote Ross Sea region of Antarctica, which is the waters to the south of New Zealand and Australia, and share a little of what you can see and experience voyaging south from New Zealand through the sub-Antarctic islands, which are always a feature of these Antarctic expeditions, down to the Ross Sea region. So these expeditions will generally give you the opportunity to visit places like the Snares, Auckland Islands, and Campbell Island, which are New Zealand sub-Antarctic islands, and also Macquarie Island, which is an Australian sub-Antarctic island. These are longer expeditions ranging from 24 to 30 days, and they take you right down into the heart of the Antarctic, into the Ross Sea region. This region also offers the option for fantastic wildlife explorations, which focus on the sub-Antarctic islands, voyages such as the Galapagos of the Southern Ocean, which is a 12-day itinerary that focuses on and features those sub-Antarctic islands, which you'll see some of the opportunities there are incredibly wildlife-rich islands, or the Beyond Fjordland itinerary, which features these sub-Antarctic islands again, but also includes some of the great scenery of southern New Zealand through those remote fjords of southwest the South Island. So starting to the south of Stewart Island, the nearest to New Zealand is the Snares, home to an endemic penguin species, the Snares crested penguin, found nowhere else. One of the most wildlife-rich islands on the planet, incredibly densely populated, but an experience like no other as we explore by Zodiac along the shores. South to the Auckland Islands, which has a great diversity of wildlife, from sea lions breeding on the beaches to yellow-eyed penguins living amongst the forested parts of the island, and parakeets that call the island home as well. Plenty of other birds and animals to be seen as well, but also a great array of plants that are unique to these islands. Spectacular floral displays feature particularly through December and January on these islands. South to Campbell Island, which is home to the southern royal albatross and some of the best albatross viewing experiences that you can have anywhere on the planet. And more of these spectacular megaherbs, such as these pleurophyllum or daisies, which cover the slopes of Campbell Island. And here guests have the opportunity to get out and explore a little further afield, should they be so inclined, along the slopes of Campbell Island. South to the southernmost of the sub-Antarctic islands in this region, which is Macquarie Island, officially part of Tasmania. It's home to an incredible abundance of life force. Penguin species call the shores of Macquarie home, including king penguins and the endemic royal penguin, which is found nowhere else. That's the subantarctic islands, then continuing south to Antarctica. And to visit this part of Antarctica, invariably you'll encounter a little bit of this, as the early explorers did, which is the pack ice that surrounds Antarctica. The scale of the Ross Sea is really something unlike anywhere else. Vast icebergs that have broken off from the ice shelves of the Ross Ice Shelf and others, and towering mountain peaks that are the Transantarctic Mountains, which define the edge of the Ross Sea. All the way south to Mount Erebus and Ross Island at the southern reaches of the Ross Sea. Here you have one of Antarctica's few active volcanoes, with the towering peak of Mount Erebus, approximately 4,000 meters high, rising above you. Along these shores, you'll find a great abundance of life. Some of the largest penguin colonies in the world are found in the Ross Sea. Here at Cape Adare, there's just on 1 million Adelie penguins that breed along the beaches of Cape Adare. And just a complete abundance of species. More Adelie penguins found throughout this region, and also excellent opportunities to see emperor penguins. There's a number of colonies during the winter months in the Ross Sea, and emperor penguins are regularly seen throughout these voyages into the Ross Sea. And a highlight for many, and a draw card, are the historic huts of Scott and Shackleton here at Cape Evans, with Scott's hut from his 1911 expedition, his ill-fated South Pole expedition. The hut is perfectly preserved as it was when the men walked out the door. The scientific equipment still sitting on the shelves. Scott's hut Scott's bed is there, as is his writing desk, and food on the shelves as well, preserved by the cold and dry climate. Just a few miles away at Cape Royds, you have Shackleton's hut from his 1907 Nimrod expedition, and rising up above, you have again Mount Erebus. These really are time capsules of an earlier era, that heroic age of exploration, preserved by the climate, a real window into the world of those explorers that really defined the stories of Antarctica through to the modern day. But above all else, no matter where you travel in the Antarctic is about those moments and those experiences. I was leading an expedition to the Ross Sea region of Antarctica in January. We voyaged south from New Zealand down into the Ross Sea, and this was just one of those moments that you can always expect, but never know when they're going to arrive in Antarctica. As we departed from Cape Adare, we'd spent a number of hours landing on the shores with the penguins and the history, and the sun just glinting through the clouds over the Transantarctic Mountains, illuminating the landscape. This is late into the evening, around 11 o'clock at night, under the midnight sun, and above all else, that's what exploring the Antarctic is all about. Is about those moments and those experiences which will stay with you and your travelers throughout their lives. Antarctica is a place like no other.
Cool. Fantastic. Thank you, Aaron. That was very comprehensive. When's your next trip to Antarctica?
Oh, not sure yet. Maybe next summer.
Yes. Yeah.
Here's hoping.
Cool. We'll just have a couple of questions for you, and if you do have any additional questions, put them in the chat. After the meeting's finished, I will leave the chat open for 5 or so minutes, so put your questions in there. But in the meantime, Aaron, when is the best time to book? Does it depend on which itinerary you're choosing?
Yeah, definitely. In terms of the best time to book, is once you know what you're looking for in terms of an expedition and which destinations you want to visit. The earlier the better. The operators often offer incentives to get in a little earlier and confirm where you're going, and that gives you the best choice. Antarctic expeditions historically have booked well in advance, so once you know where you want to go and experience, get on and book. It means you can secure the cabin you want, the itinerary, the departure date that you're looking for, and you've got options. While there may be availability later, and the team can always definitely help you with those options as the options as the voyages do start to fill up. I would always encourage you to act decisively and take advantage of those options as soon as they're available and released. Generally, voyages will be released somewhere between 18 months and 2 years in advance, so you're able to get on and start planning if it's part of your future travel plans. But don't despair if you haven't already got things organised for next summer. We still have options and availability, and it's never too late to head to the Antarctic as well.
Okay, great. That's good to know. And also a question about the fitness levels required for Antarctica.
So in my experience, the great thing about Antarctica and the subantarctic islands is that there's something for everybody. There's this abundance of life and scenery, so you can be as active or as inactive as you want to, and there's an experience there for everybody. If you're wanting to join some of the longer hikes and those longer walking opportunities, then definitely a certain degree of fitness is required, and your expedition team will be able to talk through what you're going to encounter and what to expect in terms of terrain and distances and the like. But equally, some of the most remarkable experiences I've had are simply sitting on the beach at the landing site or out amongst the ice and the zodiacs, where you don't need to have any significant degree of fitness. So Antarctica is a great destination for all travellers, but come prepared for a place which is going to give you opportunities and take the experiences and the opportunities that you can while you're there.
Yeah. As I mentioned, put your questions in the chat, and before we wrap up today, for those who are looking to book soon or fairly soon, we do have a few specials on at the moment. So we talked about Fly the Drake. So for people who are a little bit short on time, flying over the Drake Passage is going to make a smaller trip for you in length. And the 2023 and then the 2024 season, so October to March, there's savings of up to 35% on some of the voyages. Just let us know if you're interested, and we can give you the full itineraries and all the details there. It's also there is also a sale on for solo travelers. Within that time frame, some of the trips don't have a single supplement. So if you are looking to travel by yourself, there could be some savings there. Those bookings must be made by the 3rd of April, however. Another sale that we do have at the moment is an all-inclusive. So you get your cruising expedition, but also you get 1 night pre and 1 night post accommodation, associated transfers and long haul flights from select cities in Australia and New Zealand. So that's starting from just under 13,000 AUD, and there's four different options. So if you just want to do Antarctica, you want to do a little bit of the Antarctic Circle expedition, and also there's Falklands and South Georgia and Antarctica there, and also Antarctica and Patagonia. But that one is getting fast because it needs to be booked by the 31st of March. And the other special that is on at the moment is an early bird savings. So you're looking quite far ahead. So it's 2024, 2025, and you're going to be able to save up to 15 to 20% off per cabin. And that includes various trips to the Peninsula, Antarctic Circle, and there's also some Falklands, South Georgia and Antarctica itineraries in there too. And there's a little bit more time to muse over that one. So that one needs to be by the 31st of May. But again, get in contact with us, or first and foremost your travel agent as well. So they'll be able to talk to us and give you all the details there. These are our details. If you do want any more information, we will do a follow-up email with all your questions, and also we will make the slides available, because I know there are some beautiful pictures on there and they might have got cut off a little bit in the presentation. So we'll make those available for you guys as well. And just a big thank you for attending today, and stay tuned, because our next webinar, we don't have a date yet, will be on the mystical fjords of Fiordland, New Zealand. So stay tuned there. But yeah, thank you, and we'll see you again